10.2 is right around the corner, and per usual, we are going to be introduced to all new types of content and rewards. We have new raids, new Mythic Plus pool, and of course, new tier sets. As a tank main, I am interested in which tanks are looking great and which ones are, well, not so much. In this video, we're going to take a deep dive into the Brewmaster tier set and break down all the details of the 2 and 4 set bonus, potential synergies that the set might have with the class, and my overall opinion. Let's dive in. Starting with the 2 set bonus, this effect is pretty straightforward. It reads, Breath of Fire deals 20% bonus damage as Shadow Flame and causes you to heal for 50% of all the fire damage dealt. You can't talk about the new tier set without talking about losing the old one. Now, coming out of this season, it's definitely going to be a damage loss if you're comparing set to set. Blackout Kick damage really packs a punch compared to Breath of Fire. Though, what I like about this set is that it tends to cover one thing Brewmaster struggles with, which is self-sustainability. Actually, most of this set leans into survivability versus damage, which I think is a good direction to go in. While I don't want to stray too far from the topic, tank survivability feels really bad this current season without an augmentation of Ogre. Every tank just feels squishy, and hopefully these sets help. Anyways, Breath of Fire deals moderate damage, first as direct damage and then as a damage over time effect as long as the Keg Smash debuff was active on the target. The healing from this effect can actually fluctuate based on certain talents, so let's explore. Since you're going to be healing based on the fire damage that you deal, that means Breath of Fire and the data it provides is going to heal you over time. But so will other fire damage sources, like Charred Passions or even Dragonfire Brew. Even abilities like Exploding Keg will heal you. This means that we need to figure out which talents will benefit us more. First, let's start with the good old-fashioned Charred Passions. Now, for this testing, I need to be taking a lot of damage, and the current PTR build doesn't have Mythic Plus available yet, so the only thing I can really think of is running an M0, so we headed off to Ruby Life Pools. Now, I could probably try to find a group for a Mega Dungeon, but I prefer being able to mass pull and just take my time with testing. I ended up trying this just a few times, so the sample size is pretty small. I tested this about 3 times, and with each attempt, it generally resulted in anywhere between a 22 to 25% of our overall healing while running Charred Passions. Now, this is including both the 2 and 4 set. I'll cover the 4 set in a bit though. While Charred Passions is active, each Spinning Crane Kick and Blackout Kick gave a good bit of healing, which makes the sustainability of Brewmaster actually feel much better. This isn't just from the passive consistent healing, but also the tier set seems to actually currently interact with our Celestial Fortune, which is a passive that grants us additional healing based on our critical strike. While the Charred Passions provides consistent healing, I did want to check out Dragonfire Brew and how that's going to interact with this tier set. Since we are no longer going to have the Season 2 tier set, Spinning Crane Kick is actually going to feel pretty weak. Therefore, Charred Passions will be worse in terms of damage, meaning that Dragonfire Brew could have the potential to pull ahead again. After testing, I can say that Dragonfire Brew does feel weaker in terms of healing as fire damage, because it's a little bit more sporadic, or I guess bursty. You can see a little bit more burst coming from Dragonfire Brew since it hits additional times and deals more damage based off of your current level of stagger, but generally it feels like you're leaning into Gift of the Ox or into Celestial Brew for the majority of your healing still. This time around, it only ended up being about 15 to 16% of our healing, which is about 8 to 10% worse than Charred Passions. Though the overall damage seemed a little bit higher, but not by much. Now, this might be a little out there, but I felt like there was some potential with Blackout combo. Since we are no longer having the amplified damage from our tier set bonus from Season 2, there is a possibility that we can spend our talents into Blackout combo in order to amplify our brew recovery rate and our Breath of Fire damage. The awkward thing about this though is if you want to optimize this, you need to change your rotation, which was actually pretty difficult for me since I've ran over 1,000 keys over the last 2 seasons. Essentially, you want to weave Blackout Kick between Keg Smash and Breath of Fire. If you Blackout Kick before a Keg Smash, this will give you an extra 2 seconds off your brews whenever you Keg Smash and 50% increased damage from Breath of Fire. The end result was actually better than I thought. This ended up pushing the tier set healing back into the range of 21 to 22%. I'm not sure if this will actually be the play, but it's interesting to think about. Anyways, the 2 set by itself feels really strong in terms of reliable healing without a healer, since it provides an additional 20% healing and the benefits of Celestial Fortune. Let's discuss the 4 set. Your attacks against targets afflicted by Breath of Fire have a chance to deal 10% extra damage as Shadow Flame. And each Celestial Brew also grants a Stagger Absorb for 100% of the Shadow Flame damage you have dealt, causing damage delayed by Stagger to instead be prevented. Now it seems like a wall of text, but it's actually pretty straightforward. While mobs have Breath of Fire debuff active on them, you have a chance to deal 10% additional damage with any of your abilities as Shadow Flame. This will bolster the 2 set damage bonus from about 2% to 4% on the high end. The second part of this set is interesting to look at. So the Shadow Flame damage that you deal with both the 2 and 4 set will build over time and will grant you a Stagger Absorption whenever you end up casting Celestial Brew. So after using Celestial Brew, you'll gain an aura. So as long as this shield persists, any damage that you take, instead of being staggered like normal, will now be absorbed completely, making the Brewmaster feel incredibly sturdy after using Celestial Brew. Sadly, this doesn't seem to show on details, so it's really hard to gauge how much this is actually preventing. I'm hoping that is something that will change though. I think that this is going to be extremely strong in Mythic Plus. While Stagger is a very powerful tank mechanic, sometimes it feels like you're just digging yourself a deeper and deeper grave. If you're using Celestial Brew consistently, you generally have a similar Stagger absorb each time based on the damage that you dealt. My only question that I really had was to see if there was a cap on this, so I decided to hit the 5 training dummies in Valdrakken for 2 minutes. After about 2 minutes or so, I hit Celestial Brew and I had a 950k absorption for 8 seconds. This is actually more than my current health pool, so the chance you're going to go for 2 minutes without using Celestial Brew is pretty unlikely. So let's test 4. All right, after 4 minutes, 1.9 million. Awesome. Random side note, it doesn't seem that fire damage based trinkets have any effect on this tier set, so that's a little disappointing, but I get it. Overall, passive 4 set for the most part until you use Celestial Brew. And it turns Celestial Brew almost into like a damage reduction, or a pause on damage, I guess. So how do I feel about this set? Brewmaster always has struggled with self-sustainability. One of the most fondly remembered tier set bonuses was from Shadowlands, and it was a bonus called Keg of the Heavens. This caused the Brewmaster to be healed based on the damage it dealt by Keg Smash, turning Keg Smash into actually a very fun ability to hit. If you play Dragonfire Brew, this set has a very similar feeling. If you play Charred Passions, it essentially feels like you're playing with a very high amount of leech, which I think both are fun and feel great. In terms of practicality, the set seems extremely passive and there isn't really much to think about. You could get a weak aura to help you track the total Shadow Flame damage, but that's really only going to be for min-maxers. This set seems to take a step back from pure damage increase and focus a little bit more on damage prevention, similar to a lot of other tank sets this upcoming patch. I think this is great, and I love dealing a ton of damage as a tank, but I think tanks should feel sturdy first. It's hard to tell how the set is going to play in higher keys since we don't have access to Mythic Plus yet, but I'm sure I'm going to test that as soon as they're available. Anyways, I hope you guys all enjoyed this little breakdown, and let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you to all my Patreon supporters who support me. It means the absolute world to me. I apologize for this little content lately, but with the impending new season, things are going to be ramping up again. Anyways, I hope you're all staying happy, healthy, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.